To FDCI Insights 2.0. The topic for this session is e-commerce, opportunity in a crisis. My name is Ekta Rajani, and I'm thrilled to be moderating this session with some of my friends and stalwarts from the Indian design and retail industry. Very quick 2-minute introductions. We have Gaurav Gupta. His highly conceptual and experimental tailoring and draping has changed what Indian wedding and couture clothing looks like in the last 15 years. He has recently gone live with his e-commerce site this year. Shantanu and Nikhil, dapper brothers and design mavens at ARM, are known for their strong, sharp take on classical Indian wear, along with a consistent India-proud sentiment. Drapes and drama blend in with gender-fluid details on both men and women's occasion wear. Tina and Atul Malhotra are the couple founders of India's fabulous multi-brand luxury destination Evoluzione. Almost 2 decades old, they are breathing new life both into their physical stores in Delhi and Chennai and with their e-com online business this year. They are enthused with new blood as a second generation in their son and daughter also joined their business. Aparna Badlani of Mumbai's multi-designer brand store, Atosa, is completing 20 years in retail and a decade with her store. Easy and eclectic in her curation, she too is looking to launch her e-com business sometime soon and has experienced what sales in social media and Instagram have been like in this year. So, is consumer interaction marred with online buying as the touch and feel experience has gone missing?
No, the thing is, I think the consumer experience has been changing in the last few years anyways. I think all of us designers have been making a lot of effort to make our couture experiences even more couture. Or I would not just say just couture, I think even ready-to-wear experiences. I think a brand experience has become extremely important today. What the brand stands for, what the ethos is, what are the big pillars of the brand, what is the look and feel, what are the colors, what is the language of the brand, what is the communication point, what words recur in a brand's Instagram account or hashtags or mind space, what mood do you go into, etc., etc. So I think there are a few brands like ours, we have really tried to do that on our online platform as well, who really take the experience virtually. And right now we are consuming what we are doing right now, this on virtually as well. And in the sense of, and I think sometimes, the virtual space has, works on different neurons in our brain. It kind of has a different subconscious and a conscious setting in our mind space. So I think the virtual human marriage has a long way to go, and it's already happening. It's been happening for a while. There's obviously the black mirror side to it, which is all of that happens in the dark web, etc. But I think there are lots of positives to it as well, that you can, obviously its technology has made things much more convenient and much more efficient. There is and much more egalitarian in a way. But at the same time, so today I'm able to reach millions more consumers, even people who are just interested in the brand or interested in the experience and probably are going to be a consumer 15 years from now, or interested in the mind space. So so from your question, the main thing is that yes, the consumer experience changes, but it really is the challenge is that how do you take advantage of that? In every corner, there's a new opportunity, and I think this is the biggest opportunity. The consumer experience, you can really take the consumer through a deeper, a more different sensory experience that you might not be able to take the consumer in a physical store. So, for example, I could come virtually on on an online consultation, which is pre-planned, or something like that, or you could actually make it more fun. There's the endless possibilities. How there's endless possibilities making a movie. So I think here is the opportunity. I see it in a very different way, and I think what has happened with us when we launched our website is yes, we obviously had that challenge of couture and online and all of that, and obviously our clothes are in fact very, very couture and very specific, very made to order. Measurements, etc., etc. We took months to just even figure out our measurement chart and how do we actually make the consumer feel comfortable to take her measurements and to give that order worth a 2 lakh or a 3 lakh rupee gown online sitting in London or Frisco or I don't know, Bangladesh or Paris or anywhere. So I think that those challenges, obviously, we are overcoming with time. We are learning with the online experience, but we made sure that I think the key is having a personal touch online consistently as well. So we have this online 24-hour stylist, um, and somebody who basically holds your hand and takes you through the process once you have shortlisted your cart and once you know. And then obviously I think then it becomes online, offline. You're on WhatsApp, you're on video calls with my staff on the stores, etc. So I think it's each to its own. This is it's a changing time, and this change was long coming because technology has been bashing on our doors, and the pandemic forced us to do it faster.
So definitely a glass half full for you.
Yes.
Anyone else would like to weigh in on this question, or?
Yeah. Just continuing from where Gaurav left, I just feel that, as a brand, we feel that, yes, there was technology knocking on our doors, and there was a sudden press for the pedal push and accelerating this whole digital world and digital economy to sort of be more in our favor, courtesy the pandemic. But having said that, I still feel that now that we have this luxury of running two separate verticals, one being luxury, which is what we were always known for, which is ceremonial couture, where there is that whole bespoke, a very strong touch and feel, which I don't think nobody and no technology can take that from your brick and mortar feel. And then this new functional, accessible, more bridge to luxury, ready to wear brand of ours has actually opened up the Pandora's box and probably gave us an insight into this whole beautiful yet very challenging world of e-commerce. And I must tell you, it's not an easy job to just launch an e-commerce website without actually having technology being integrated from the outset. And I think we've been able to do that with our new bridge to luxury brand called SNN by Shantanu and Nikhil, because we felt that this is a brand that has a lot to offer to the world, and it'll have to have many, many points of sales and many channels to express itself. So couture would still, I feel, will still sort of go through that traditional form of using digital as a way of marketing, branding, and then using that as a single channel focus point. So, you have queries and then you go to your stores. But with SNN, I think we've gone the full shebang. We've gone where digital tools have played a very important role, where SAP, the ERP systems have sort of combined together and created a re-engineered look where a customer can look at an omni-channel strategy, and we've embarked on that, which was the most challenging part so far. And I think we've had a team of people who've foregone some of their regular duties, and they've gone in and become internet marketers. They're studying, doing online classes. It's not easy, and there's some things that we are learning along the way. But yes, we are on the way from being a single channel brand to being a multi-channel, which is where obviously offline and online were the two channels that we were focusing on. But now it is about how offline and online can converge and become omni-channel, and you give that consumer, the same consumer, a purchase option. So you may go to an offline store, but you'll get the similar experience of what you do online. So I think this whole integration of a buy on, shop in, and shop from store, or a buy online, shop from store, or buy online, pick from store. These are some of those things that we are now working on. So having said that, I still feel e-commerce is for ready to wear. The bigger the product line that you have, the bigger the basket, the bigger your understanding of what the consumer is chasing and how are you chasing. What are some of those campaigns that have resulted in bringing about that change? I think consumer behavioral patterns, all of those converge, and we're continuously learning while we were in pandemic and now. So it's a challenging but a very fulfilling journey, I feel, and I think one that will definitely have a future.
Sounds wonderful. You know, there are two different points of view on the same experience, but everything is a learning and everything is full of possibilities right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, my next question is to Tina and Atul. What have you done to achieve a better interface for smoother navigation on your portal?
So, when we launched the portal, we were on a particular platform. And honestly, I think the inputs of the next generation to see how they perceive the entire experience or an interface with the e-commerce makes a huge difference. So the entire experience was designed by our youngest daughter, Rahana. So they've obviously been far more exposed to the entire world of e-com. But we realized that even though we had put in a lot of effort into this platform, this is what our original site itself was based on. We still have to take it further because almost 80% of the customers who are coming online are shopping on a phone today. And therefore, that whole interaction and that whole interface with the phone is still very, very different. Now, unlike a collection which you have of a single designer, like what was mentioned, you have a certain array of what you can offer as far as the collection is concerned. That interface where you have a single designer versus a multi-brand store, how do you ensure that what the customer is looking for is accessible even on the mobile phone? And I think that has been the biggest challenge for us. And we still see constraints, and we are starting in December to move to another platform just to improve that interface. And what's been said very rightly about this whole experience is that it has to be backed with a lot of technology. So we introduced, an entire ERP system almost 2 years before we decided to go online. Because if the entire e-commerce is not backed with a proper business model and a proper model for you to be able to control your inventories, then I don't think the customer interface and experience can also be, the same. But talking about the challenge also of improving the experience of the customer, I think what is very critical out here is that I don't think you can replace the experience, especially in the case of couture. Couture and bridal wear still requires a lot of personal interface, and therefore this whole omni-channel system does work, where customers have a chance to browse online, but eventually they want to come to the physical space to, make that final call. So that's where we have to take advantage of having the physical spaces for the customers to, go in. And I do agree, the customer online is far more price sensitive as well. So this entire interface which exists, the moment they see a high priced item or a high ticket item when they open the website, that itself, kind of puts them off. So I'm not really sure if we are ready. This is probably going on to another question, but I'm not really sure if we are ready as a country to, be buying or investing that kind of money online, especially when you have the chance of walking into a store. But the reach to another customer who's, let's say, in a remote part of town or doesn't have access to this, even another country, it's very important to get the word out there. So I'm
And
not sure.
also, we're moving from only being like dealing with fashion to other products like well-being, food, things what people are really buying and really the need of the hour. So we've also seen that candles, for example, so aroma and things like that. So that is also becoming a very important part of Evoluzione.
So during the pandemic, we sold a lot of ice cream, which is funny enough, but it's a reality of what's happening out there. So you have to adjust
Yeah,
yourself to the need. Yeah.
yeah.
So you have to become a lifestyle store rather than being just a fashion store.
In fact, we do some of our entry points are our accessories. We sell accessories every day, and right from pocket square to brooches to wallets. These are some of those key points for them to enter. So clothing comes afterwards. So it becomes a complete 360-degree approach towards this whole online madness, and that's what sort of is exciting you continuously sort of reboot your energies and create flexibility and elasticity around that whole vertical.
And I think just quickly to finish off, what's really interesting is that when we first started making collections, we were, online, we were hoping that we'll sell clothes, and so the campaigns were created focusing on the details of manufacturing and fabrics and silhouettes. And then your maximum sales happen in accessories. How do you pivot from there on? And that becomes very interesting for designers because, we guys come with a certain amount of ego and we want to sell what we believe in. But when the consumer starts asking you more of something that you may not have done enough, and that's when the pivot happens. So for me, the online platform is really a place where you're being told what to do, as opposed to like couture is what you tell the consumer what they should buy. Here it's quite the opposite. So great amount of learning.
I think the first few years, maybe months, will just go into building your tools and machinery for even understanding how that e-commerce machinery works. That's when you'll get your customer interface in some sort of semblance with how they want to be perceived when they enter or go into your website and you go into your domain. So these are some of the things that we've been firefighting with, and these are some of the things that are the more, I think, pivotal points to first consider before you start making any online transaction. Because it's not about sales, it's about sales, logistics, and distribution coming together. So you may do a sale, but if your logistics partner is not in sync, where his technology talks to our technology and the piece cannot be delivered, your brand suddenly goes for a toss. And if your distribution strategy is not good, so all three have to sort of converge together. It just can't be about sales. So these are some of the hard facts. And as much as the world is saying, and so there is a reason why fashion never embraced, and especially high-end brands and luxury brands, they did not embrace digital, because there's a reason. There's a lot of madness, there's a lot of capital that is required to create that ecosystem and digital economy. So it's only now that the pandemic has urged all of us to at least start thinking that way. You may not accomplish everything in one go, or you may not be champions of e-commerce, but the starting point has to be technology. And very sound system that understands how e-commerce operates.
Fantastic. My next question is to Shantanu, Nikhil, but I think you answered part of it and you can add to that. What has the customer response been and how have you fine-tuned it to suit the current needs? I think Nikhil did mention that the feedback mechanism has suddenly changed.
So, like I said, it's a science, and this is a science that one has to go through. You have to do your self-learning. I think we've taken classes, my team is taking classes, and we are understanding from each other. It's almost every other day we are sitting together in a huddle and trying to give our thoughts to their thoughts, and then we take their thoughts and we say, okay, where are we moving? And this is, but one common ground and one common framework is that technology has to talk to consumers. So like I said, we were all single channel brands, whether it be Gaurav, Gupta, us guys, or there were brick and mortar stores. We were just telling our customers to come and purchase. So that was single channel. Then we became multi-channel courtesy the pandemic, which is we have an offline, we have an online. We always had brick and mortar stores. Now we have an offline website that is an e-commerce website. So there's a difference between a website and an e-commerce website. So we've begun to understand that we are now moving from single channel to multi-channel, which is we are selling online. We are also making sure that the online customer has an opportunity to go to our offline stores and make a purchase. But the third one, which is the more challenging one, and I feel which is where customer inclusion, engagement, all your convergence happens, is omni-channel, which is where the online and offline actually become together, become one and get married. And that's when technology starts talking to another technology. So we have right now, what we have done is that part of this omni-channel strategy is that we have a centralized warehousing system that addresses all inventory needs. So inventory is talking to another inventory technology. So at any point in time, when you browse through our online for SNN, see, SNN is different. We are still using Shantanu, Nikhil as a branding opportunity and social media and Instagram to sort of also become buying opportunities. So that varies. So we can always go to our stores, or we can do virtual appointments. But I don't see a future in virtual appointments, or I don't see, at least in couture, somebody coming and getting a customized gown or a Shantanu Nikhil lehenga being done. But they could be one-off transactions like that, but I don't see it being future fit. What I see is that if there is that consumer interface with a ready-to-wear aesthetic, where you come out with certain products that you're doing already, and you're finding and you want that to be a part of your e-commerce, then you've got to make sure that there is an omni-channel methodology to it, where whereby what we are doing is we have just about integrated a BOSS technology, which is buy online, ship from store, which is more business related. So at any point in time, our inventories could be sitting in any part of the world. Could it be in my factories or my warehouses or my stores? The inventory will move from one place to the other, depending on what the browsing has entailed. So that is a part of omni-channel strategy. What we want to get into in the future is where we get into something called BOPIS, which is buy online, but pick in store. But that is more of a consumer strategy. You need many points of sale. You need to have your own flagship stores. That's where cost reductions will happen. That's where packaging costs, your logistics costs, all of those will start to reduce. That's the next stage that we want to get into. We've gotten into BOSS, we want to get into BOPIS, and automatically we get artificial intelligence into our scheme of things. We'll start doing all your consumer data analytics and bring the consumers very close to what the brand stands for. And I think that's where it is. That's where the excitement is right now.
I almost feel like I have to fly to Delhi and re-educate myself at your office. Like, 6-month internship with you guys.
So the pandemic taught us, while we were in the pandemic, we were only understanding the nuances of what e-commerce could be, and I think so it was well good time spent, and we were on virtual calls and Zoom calls and Teams every day on there, just to make sure that we could immediately streamroll and streamline our e-commerce. And while we were in the pandemic, we had actually started our e-commerce website. So that
fantastic. There's a lot to catch up. Like I said, I'm applying for internships this year or next year, maybe.
Shantanu, another question, Ekta.
So, Aparna, the question for you is, do you think buyers are adapting fast enough to new technology as the pandemic has forced people to open up their e-wallets in a largely cash-driven market?
To be very honest with you, I think Shantanu has kind of addressed a part of this, where he said that, yes, for maybe like Pret or Bridge, collections, to a large extent, yes, they're able to. It's very price point driven, to be very honest with you. We have, like you shared right in the beginning, we don't have an e-commerce site yet. We're working on it, but we've been doing a lot of sales through our social media platforms. And of course, a lot of the consumers have been buying, but honestly, it's again been completely multi-pronged. We'll put up pictures. There'll be a lot of inquiries. Ultimately, it does come down to like the store staff making personal calls or the customer calling us up. And then we've even gone to the extent, especially for our customers within Bombay, to even get the pieces across to them for trials and things like that. Depending on what they like, they can pick and choose. So, it's become, I feel like we're doing a lot more than we would have typically done, where a customer just walks into the store and picks and chooses their pieces, tries them on, pays for it and walks out. The pandemic has been a learning process in every way for each one of us. We've gone to various lengths to make sure that, we're reaching out to our consumers. We're making sure that they get what they want. And of course, to make sure that the sale goes through as well. So it's, yes, they're opening up their wallets. Yes, but I feel also, and please correct me if I'm wrong, when a customer is shopping online, or even through social media channels, their patience levels are a lot lower than when they're physically there at the store. They'll see something and they'll be like, and if a product reaches them, they'll be like, I don't think I wanted this. They themselves are not as prepared to shop online just yet. I think it's going to be a process for them as well. It's happened with a lot of customers for us that they've been like, this is not what I thought it would turn out to be. What can you do for me? So yes, it's happening, but there is a lot of apprehension. There is a resistance. But I mean, I think they also realize that they don't have a choice but to take this channel. So yes, that's what we've observed, as a matter of fact.
So fine-tuning the expectation meets reality is a very real part of the business at this point in time.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anyone else wants to weigh in on
You know,
this?
Ekta, if you see the amount of, it's a very important point that Aparna has made, and I'm sure the reality for everyone is very, very similar. Now, in a multi-brand kind of an environment, the amount of abandoned carts that you get, because there isn't someone to convert that or make, convince that last conversion is a very, very important aspect. So is the Indian consumer really ready to spend that kind of money online is still a question out there right now. Because I think that when it comes to a certain price point, the consumer needs that stylist, needs that confidence that comes from that, service that is provided in the store. Can we improve it going forward? Absolutely. I think, like he said, having personal consultations or trying to make sure that there is a stylist available online for you to, make that final decision, it does make a difference. But what we've seen is that post our launch of the website, there are a lot more new customers walking into the stores as well. So there is a purpose that it's achieving. That it's a word of mouth. Our Instagram and social media activity has increased. Therefore, the kind of footfalls that we've seen from new customers, especially coming from maybe smaller towns. Okay, so the pandemic obviously has a challenge, but we've seen a lot of new customers come into the stores in the last 2 months. So 2 or 3 months after the launch of the website, seeing the way that social media has changed, and like I said, launching other product parallels. This Evoluzione pantry we've launched. We've launched Evoluzione well-being space. We started doing gifting during Diwali, which was something totally new for us, and this was again conceptualized by the next gen, and that has driven a completely different type of sale and different type of customer to the store. But will the customer not abandon his cart? Will they take that final decision? I think we have to learn from the Farfetches and the Net-a-Porters of the world. Really, there's a lot for us to, even for the consumer, to have that level of confidence. It's going to take time. So this is really a long-term strategy.
Yeah, but even the data you accumulate as a business over the next 1 to 2
It's
to 3
phenomenal.
years
Yeah.
give you such a learning curve on the changes that you will make going ahead. I mean, this is data accumulation time in a certain
Absolutely.
sense. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly what you said, Ekta. I think it's the consolidation that's happened. I think what is the online space doing is that it's consolidating the industry's thoughts and activities at large towards this movement, towards this shift that's happening, which was waiting to happen, which did not happen in India for the longest time because Indian designers and consumers were very much in a habit to touch, feel, experience, and consume, even at a even at a ready-to-wear level. Like even for us, I think we have all learned online shopping during the pandemic, even for our grocery needs or for our, just the shift in the mind has happened in the Indian consumer, especially the non-online consumer worldwide, much more during this time. So, and I think what is really interesting is that a lot of newer methods and newer things would emerge. I think that from the ERP system that Atul was talking earlier, we've been integrated in that since the last 2 years as well. And I think exactly what Shantanu was saying, that newer systems are emerging, that the integration of the online and offline experience is automatically happening, and many more newer experiences will happen. I think it would not be, 3 years from now or 2 years from now, we could actually, a lot of AI technology is coming in, and the way we would integrate it for specifically for the Indian consumer of Indian products or Indian designer clothes. I think also what is there is that there's multiplicity of opportunities. The opportunity that my gown can right now be experienced by somebody in the Middle East as a new market altogether, where I would not perhaps been able to market something to that consumer otherwise, because that's where the egalitarianism comes, and that's where the equal opportunity comes. Obviously, you need money, structure, uh, and a business aspect to it to kind of to have that vision to make it wider. So, and there's a lot for us. I just hope all of us when we're evolving in this Indian fashion industry of online experiences are not going to in the big fight of who's doing more sales and this and that and data collection, etc., which is what ends up happening globally as well. And I think for luxury to bridge the gap between luxury and luxury prep and then high street premium clothing, I think that's where this is the start for India. Because if you look at India from a if you take 5 steps back and you look at infrastructurally, India doesn't have a fashion infrastructure. We don't have high street. We don't have Oxford streets. We don't have all of those kind of places. Like there are 2 stores of Louis Vuitton in India and there are 200 stores in China. So fashion as an industry, this space will consolidate the industry in many ways. I think as backend, as technology, as experience, as consumer behavior, studying database, a lot of things will get consolidated and a lot of new trends would emerge, and it would help the industry to grow in multifolds as well.
I think India is a different beast, as you rightly pointed out. How this format works for this country will be perhaps a little bit different from how it works for many other
And
parts
the
of the
Indian
world.
consumer is very spoiled,
Yeah.
very, very spoiled. That auntie getting a kurti for 5,000 rupees in a boutique wants everything in that kurti.
Yeah.
So as somebody
And
getting
you
like
can't
a
ask
top
for a
from me for,
discount.
yeah,
You
and
can't
they
ask
and they
for a
want that
discount.
discount.
Yeah.
So we all
And
have to, I think, as an industry, strategize and learn, and it's a constant learning process, as Shantanu was rightly saying as well. It's a constant online learning process where you do, and because the thing is, you don't want to. You have to. We have to be able to identify the different trends or different types of our consumers, because there is a couture consumer who wants a couture experience. And yes, you rightly said that eventually, I think after the scare of the pandemic, etc., would be mostly offline. But I think there would be new trends that would emerge that my online consumer from Middle East or from New York, etc., is able to experience that thing online and is able to consume it, is able to make a short list online on my website or with WhatsApp with my stylist, and is able to consume it later on with trials, like how Aparna, you're giving trials to your Bombay, physical trials to your consumers. So there are lots of
honestly, it's
newer
not even just
methods.
Bombay, Gaurav. We've gone
Yeah.
to extents of, if we know the customer, there are lots of
Yeah,
out of
exactly.
town customers that come. We've sent pieces even out of town because we know the customer really well. We know that the pieces will eventually come back to us. So we've gone to that length. It's just about customer satisfaction at this point in time, and to give them the reassurance that yes, even though we are going online, it's not like your experience is going to be any different. So that is what the hope is at this point in time.
The world already exists with two businesses. One is online and the other is offline. Except in India, now it's a new phenomenon here, thanks to the pandemic.
We've actually gone from customization to technology, skipping brick and mortar. In a certain sense, if you just look at like numbers and volume and retail space, we've literally gone from getting everything customized to going online.
We were having this conversation the other day, and we realized the importance of brick and mortar, because you understand the consumer behavior at a frontline level, where if you have 10 walk-ins and 5 of them purchase something and do a average buying of an X amount, you know what the behavior is, and that data which you get in your store is great value, which also allows you to then plan either you need to open more stores or you then stay with 2 stores. A lot of times entrepreneurs / designers, we are unsure whether we need to open more stores. How do we get that data? Brick and mortar stores can actually help you there, because if you have an X amount of people walking in and you have a very small percentage buying, it's a clear indication that you may not want to open more stores because there's something wrong with the product. and therefore you work on the product and then relook at your conversions. Once the conversions happen at a certain rate, which is the market rate of, let's say, 12 to 14%, then you should look at opening more stores. But if in some case your conversion rate goes beyond 45%, you have to open more stores. I mean, you are losing time and you lose money if you don't open stores, if your conversion rate's at 45. So I feel brick and mortar data from consumer to your salespeople is so important. And I think all of us here have that knowledge because we've had stores running for so many years. But right now, obviously, with the situation, we have disbelief that we may not be able to survive. But this is a good time to look at that data and then go back to that consumer with the product that they usually buy.
Got it.
Ekta, there's one very important point that I think we need to touch upon is even if you have the online space, the cost of acquisition of a customer is a huge spend. You know, that's something that we have to really try and understand that today, if you take the large guys like the Mintras of the world, etc., the amount of money that they have and the firepower that like an Amazon has on the cost of acquiring a customer is huge. So how does someone, at our level, at a designer's level, or even at a multi-brand store level, put in that kind of investment for the acquisition of a customer today? Because from the data I've got from discussions with even people like Mintra, 80% of the customers who they spend money acquiring, over 2 years, that customer drops off. They don't come back on a repeat. They only do a one time purchase. So you need that many more people to first come on board your platform. So that's why I think this is a very long term strategy. And I mean, we might be going off point a little bit, but today, if you see the entire Reliance play into this industry, and I'm sure that's a big discussion that's going to happen where what's going to be a big change is that integration of technology that Reliance is going to bring on the geo platforms with the luxury, physical mall, etc., that they are planning. And I think these are game changers, which are also going to help the other multi-brand outlets and the designers individually, because the cost of acquiring that customer and onboarding that customer on an online platform will change the experience and then change their let's say interface as well as buying from these platforms. Today there's a lack of trust. So whether it is you take the entire medical field where people have invested a huge amount of money in trying to acquire, even start buying, things like your medicines online, it's been like it's a mental block. But if you see your behavior in the last 6 months during the pandemic, 90% of your purchases or conversions, even for things that you were unaware of, whether it is food or whether it was home product, you became aware of a lot more, let's say, offerings because they went online, right? So I think it will start in a small way, but it needs that time for it, for the customer to be convinced to convert to, higher value purchases. So like I said, we are very far from the far fetches and the net-a-porters of the world right now.
You're absolutely right. That cost of consumer acquisition, what we call COCA, as a short term, is a huge application, I must tell you. You have the stats say 10,000 people need to come into your website to convert one. So
wow,
conversion,
that is a scary sounding number.
Yeah,
It's not. It's
a reality.
Yeah, it is scary, but there's a lot of. But then the thing is also, I feel like there'll be. Yes, Atul, you are completely right. I think this geo situation would definitely consolidate this process even more, and it's right now we're in the middle of a developing fashion industry in a developing country. We are viewing what is happening in front of us. It's not that, okay, it's not that everybody's aware of fashion. Everybody has that trust level. It's not that these brands are hundreds of years old. Our brands are 15, 20 years old. So there is the trust factor. It's at the industry that, it's like, how do you trust buying something online? I think the market situation is changing in every way, consumer behavior. But I think what is really interesting is that that we have to see how do we, a lot of newer brands, a lot of newer behavior would emerge in the coming years. Like how you can, you walk into a Selfridges, or if you go online on Net-a-Porter as well, you cannot customize an outfit and say that, okay, give me a sleeve and give me some embroidery on the neckline and make my length shorter by this much. Whereas in India, Indian consumer is a very different consumer. And I think that's where newer types of markets and behaviors would emerge, where I think the couture collection, then the mid collection. And then I think what is great is a great opportunity in accessories where there's not customization required. You can grow in numbers. But the thing is, in the Indian consumer wants that customization even in a 10,000 rupee dress. Like, can I get it in a different? I think that behavior will also take time to change when an Indian consumer understands, okay, I'm getting value in that 10,000 rupee dress over 3 years, over 5 years, over, things like that. So everything is going to keep shifting and changing. The offerings, the behavior of the consumer, technology coming in, consumer acquisition, the consumer growing from, I don't know, Trivandrum or, somewhere remote in India, understanding that he or she can trust this online website where he or she can pay that 10,000 rupees and will get that service, etc., etc., etc. So I think all of this is going to evolve rapidly over the next 2, 3, 5 years, and it's going to keep growing. And a lot of newer brands are going to emerge in the ready-to-wear space. This is a great time, a great opportunity for ready-to-wear to emerge. But Atul is extremely right in saying customer acquisition, the monies involved in this whole situation is big. But I think the Mintras also help converting somebody, making somebody comfortable to the online space. Like what has happened with all of us. Like I'm buying toothpaste online these days. Just for me to know that, okay, there's a charcoal toothpaste available, which somebody in my house system was getting earlier from the local grocery store, which I would not be so aware of. So we are very much more aware of our consumer habits right now at whatever scale or whatever socio-economical scale we might be in the world right now. So there's a lot more self-awareness of what we want. So I think a lot of consumer behavior is changing as well.
So I think what will happen, Ekta, is that you will continue to dabble with brick and mortar and have an online strategy. As Indian designers, I'm only speaking on behalf of Indian designers. Most of us are couturiers, so we've got our task cut out. Couture is only so much expanse you can do, be it nationally or internationally. There is a cost of opening couture stores. And the product that goes into those stores has a certain amount of input costs. So, the best thing about online is that if you have a ready-to-wear brand and the brand is flexible and elastic enough to give you enough solutions, and then you also have the wherewithal to open stores, you're giving the way to win a consumer in that strategy is to make sure that you have a mirage or a mirror image of what you see online is what you see in your stores. And I think a ready-to-wear brand, that vertical can do that for you. For our SMN by Shantanu, Nikhil, we have sizes, we have colors, so from 38 to 46. So if somebody from Trivandrum is comfortable with the 44, our omni-channel strategy will allow him to get that 44 size. But in couture, you cannot do that. So when I talk about omni-channel and when I talk about that convergence of offline and online, you cannot have one product sitting on your website which is not a mirror image of what you have in your store. So that is where
For sure.
that is where dilution will start to happen. And in couture, it is almost impossible to have a replicate of one sample being quadrupled into 5 stores because there's costs involved with one lehenga. But if you're showing that online, but that person says, I would go to your offline store and do it, but you don't have it. That's it. That's cheating. So your customer not acquired.
For sure.
That is where I feel the battle has just begun. And as Atul has rightly pointed out, it will take us many years, but it is definitely giving us to think and think big and some decisions that need to be made really faster. And whether you belong nationally or internationally, you need to figure those things out when you're competing in this e-commerce ecosystem. because you could be in the e-commerce space, but only thinking nationally. Because internationally, you also require a certain amount of campaign. You require money being fed into that market to get that consumer going. Shipping issues, hassles. So there is a lot to be learned. So it's not as much as we've been hearing that e-commerce is the way forward, digital is the way forward. It is the way forward, but it's not an easy thing to take.
It comes with I mean, I just have to say that, any new process comes with its challenges. The challenges are not only on our front, they're obviously on the consumer front as well. I mean, I think each one of us is kind of struggling with this process at this point in time. It's a learning for us and it's a learning for the consumer as well. As a matter of fact, as a country, we're so spoiled because of the kind of hospitality that we're used to and the experiences that we're used to, that the consumer themselves is very hesitant also. I mean, you'll convince them, like Atul said, you'll convince them 80-90% and they'll still drop out and you'll be like, what happened, kind of a thing. So I feel like the learnings are on both sides, and yes, it's going to take us a while. And I also, this is a point that it was a huge learning also during this process of the pandemic. Because of the pandemic, yes, we all got pushed into that direction where we have to go digital, we have to go online. I feel like even for the smallest brand, everybody went online, and then now there's a sudden saturation of that as well, and of course everybody's struggling, everybody has their challenges, because the smallest designers online themselves, they're with XYZ multi-brand stores as well. So I mean, it's a struggle there as well. So there's like multifold challenges here, honestly.
But that is what will probably refine design. When the competition increases, you can't get by with average. You have to push it above to get noticed.
Absolutely.
That's true.
Agreed.
I think marketing is a huge key aspect, and understanding online marketing, which is also something that we're constantly learning right now, how to remarket product to even like abandoned carts, or like, I think, but do it in a brand communication language, correct way. And also like, just like acquisition of new customers is a huge cost. But I think one has, as Shantanu and Atul and all of us have been rightly talking, that in the sense of it's first understanding what is your consumer. I think what you were saying is like, also, I think the definition of couture in India has also changed. And there's been newer definitions of couture world over. So there is couture, then there's demi-couture. Then I think there's a whole new world of demi-couture, which has emerged in the Middle East, for example. And I think that kind of exists in a huge way in India. And then there is the bridge collections, then ready to wear, and then the high street. So there are premium and then high street. So there are many different segments of the market as an industry in fashion, which is getting more and more formal and more refined with time. And then once you understand this is the consumer, this is what you're marketing to, the marketing channel, social media is the biggest marketing tool these days. And it will be for many more years to come, unless I have, a woman appearing in 3D in front of me and trying to seduce me to buy this, gown, which is also not very far. So it's like, it's very interesting what's happening. And marketing is a very big key. Understanding display ads, Google ads. And we've all learned so much. It's literally, we've taken lessons in understanding how does online work? What is SEO really? How do I analyze who's coming from where and what consumer behavior, what all pages is the consumer going on, and what is he or she viewing, and why is that person spending so much time on that thing? And the thing is, sometimes it becomes easier for you to do that as well when you're looking at those analytics, because when I have these stores, even if I have a ready-to-wear store, if I have 10 or 15, I cannot monitor that consumer is spending 20 minutes with that sweatshirt. But online, you can monitor that. So there's a lot more learning that can happen. And then and you're rightly saying, a lot of new exciting design is going to come out as well.
Okay, last question, which is to everyone and anyone who wants to answer, because this is a tough one, I think. In this age of increased e-commerce, obviously the packaging is increasing incrementally. What went out as a bag now goes out as a bag and a cover, and some people would even plastic coat it, like it's triple or quadrupled in a certain sense. as brands or retail stores, is anyone looking at maybe redesigning, revisiting how this could be less resource intensive? Like, is that on the desk for anyone?
So I want to say that this particular lead has been taken by my son who wanted his packaging to be completely eco-friendly. He said, "I will not use any plastic." So he went and bought a sustainable fabric. So he uses no plastic in his shipping at all. His entire packaging is down to one kind of garment bag, which says it is completely recycled, and he uses one single box, which is again from recycled, paper. So his entire packaging is a completely sustainable source. He's very clear on that philosophy. I will pay more money for it, so he is actually paying more for that box. But we should also look at whether that packaging is sensible and can be reused. For example, that bag in which he's putting the product today, it doesn't get thrown away because it can be used as a shoe bag, it can be used as a toilet kit. So I think that's the way to address it. Secondly, the box can be used for any form of storage. So are you ready to put value, invest more in it so that it doesn't get thrown away? Is another way of looking at it as a renewables, kind of a product. So that's one of the ways to address it. And I think we've constantly learned from this next generation, because as much as I was trying to push him to say, no, no, you reduce the cost, it's crazy to put in so much of money into a package. He said, no, you don't get the point. The point is, let it be good enough for the person to use again. And I think we have to rethink, we have to reset our entire thought process in this. Even for the Evoluzione, we used a recycled box. We know it's probably not the best, looking box, but you have to put in the money so that tomorrow a person can use that for gifting or whatever. I think that's the only answer we have right now. And I think a lot of sources have come up with solutions today. It's not that it's not available. We have to be ready to spend the money on it.
I
Nice.
completely agree there. The thing is, Atul, huge respect and kudos to your son and to you to take this lead. And I think we need more and more examples of such packaging. And I think it also builds today. We have to realize that the Indian consumer, all our consumers are ever evolving. They're much more educated. They're seeing much more. They are consuming much more information on Instagram. They know about climate change, etc. As much as we think that they might be ignorant, but I would love to consume that box, and I'm looking for packaging solutions at home. So I think that is perfectly fine, and exactly in the same way. And I think sustainability has many different forms to itself today. Like how you are not using any plastic in your packaging, Atul, I'm using only plastic in my packaging. And that plastic is actually because 97% of the world plastic does not get recycled. As much as we end up in Europe or America or in posh houses in India having different dustbins for or waste bags for plastic and paper, etc., that plastic does not get recycled. So billions and billions of gallons of plastic is produced and disposed of in oceans and landfills every day. So what we have done is we have tied up with this company called Waste to Air. So there are different ways of going away with sustainability, and all of us as fashion being the biggest pollutants have the responsibility and urgent responsibility to make this happen right now. So what we do is we recycle the plastic from the ocean into jacket covers, um, garment covers, etc. And now we're looking at all kind of solutions out of that recycled plastic. So there, in the whole world, there are people who are actually making houses with that recycled plastic, things like that. So it's different ways of sustainability which we have to look into packaging. And I think online packaging, as you said, is a huge, huge, huge scare, which is uh, contributing immensely to climate crisis. So we all have to be very, very aware of this burning need of the hour.
So with that, I think we're going to wrap up this amazing session. Like I said, I'm sending out internship letters to a couple of you guys. And I mean, just to summarize, I mean, there's so much, but just, the quick takeaways for me were personalizing technology, uh, making sure that the back end in terms of the ERP system and the technology that supports this entire growth that one is anticipating is far more in place than we imagine it to be. And really, how does AI and human interaction merge, to be effective for this entire experience, going ahead? And that is going to be, I think, the next 40 to 50 years of our lives, and we're all going to live to tell. So thank you, everyone. It was a real learning for me, for sure. And I think for anyone who's going to be watching this, there's a lot to take away from this and think about. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Great to see you
you.
guys.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Lovely seeing
Bye.
everyone after
Take
so
care.
long.
Stay
Take
well.
care.
No,
Bye.
bye.
Yes. Bye.